Sisters and brothers, away in Usiemi, Pastor Mel speaking. In the name of Tatanzambi Amazulu, creator of heavens and earth, the one who anointed me to be your servant and to get you prepared to go back to Zion, Congo de Antotela, Lovuvamu, peace be with you. Today is Monday, January 11th, 2021, and we are making our 41st video. The theme is 400 Years, the Indisputable and Indelible Marker. What does 2021 symbolize for the diaspora? To find out, we must first illuminate a fundamental point in the history of Isolele, the chosen people of the Most High. This point is that of the 400 years of slavery of the tribes of Isolele. It should already be emphasized that in order to fully understand the scriptures, the assistance of the Holy Spirit, the Mwandon Semi, is essential. Essential, but not sufficient. Let me explain. Let's take Daniel chapter 2 as an example. It was about the vision of a huge statue that caused confusion in the mind of King Nebuchadnezzar. Daniel chapter 2 verses 31 to 45. To understand the hidden meaning of this vision, especially its last part, the legs and feet of the statue, you need a good general culture. Thus, for lack of good general knowledge, most, including Bible scholars, falsely attribute the 400 years of slavery of Genesis chapter 15 verse 13 and Acts chapter 7 verse 6 to the stay of the descendants of Jacob in Egypt. Then Israel entered Egypt. Jacob resided as a foreigner in the land of Ham. Psalms chapter 105 verse 23. To attribute the 400 years of slavery to Egypt is a mistake, as I will demonstrate in a few moments. In fact, the 400 years of slavery concern modern history and not antiquity. They refer to the plight of the Bantu, robbed from Africa and enslaved in North, Central, South America and the Caribbean islands. To be clear about these, we will refer to the following biblical texts. In the 480th year after the Israelites came out of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, the 2nd month, he began to build the temple of the Lord. 1 Kings 6:1. Let's take out our calculators and dive into the heart of the matter. Let's isolate two essential points. A. The years of Solomon's reign. B. The construction of the first temple. According to the records, Solomon reigned from 970 to 931 before Christ. He began to build the temple in the year 966 before Christ. Let's add 480 years to get the approximate year of the Exodus, i.e. 1446 before Christ. The Bible states that the stay and not the actual slavery of the children of Isolele in Egypt was 430 years. Exodus chapter 12 verse 40. Therefore, the arrival in Egypt is more or less in the year 1446 plus 430, which gives 1876 before Christ. Armed with these dates, I invite historians to check the annals of that time to see whether there were 400 years of slavery of any people in Egypt. answer is three times no. This is the first point. Let's move on to the second point. As mentioned above, the scriptures indicate 430 years as the length of Isolele's stay in Egypt. If there were 400 years of slavery, that assumes that the Hebrews' peaceful sojourn in Egypt lasted barely 30 years. This hypothesis doesn't correspond to the account of the biblical texts. In fact, there was first a peaceful and prosperous stay of the tribes of Isolele in Egypt, guaranteed by the memory of Joseph's blessings as Pharaoh's prime minister. Then came a dynasty which didn't know Joseph. The latter began to treat Israel harshly, which despite this continued to proliferate demographically. It was only later that the period of slavery came. Exodus chapter 1 verses 8 to 14. The chronology established on this basis completely excludes the hypothesis of 400 years of servitude. When they arrived in Egypt, Jacob's children, the 12 tribes of Isolele, numbered barely 60 people. When they left Kemet, Egypt's real name, they had reached a staggering 600,000 men, not to mention the children who, logically, always outnumber the adults. Exodus chapter 12, verse 37. 400 years of slavery, to which must be added the massacre of Hebrew male children, do not allow such a proliferation. We can therefore see that the 400 years of slavery doesn't correspond to the time of ancient Egypt, nor to any other time in the history of the Hebrew people as taught in the history books. To solve this riddle, we must give back to Caesar what belongs to Caesar. The Hebrew people, confused within Egypt with the Egyptian people, as evidenced by the story of Moses, recognized as Egyptian by the daughters of Jethro, Exodus chapter 2 verse 19, is at its formation as an homogeneous people, a people of black Africans. Without going into details in this short video, another people made up of Lukoder, white people, have taken hold of Isolele's legacy and have taken their place. The Most High let it happen because this Israel, made up of whites, was going to serve to hide the true chosen people who, shortly before the destruction of the Temple of Jerusalem by the Roman troops of General Titus in the year 70 of our era, immigrated in the center of the African continent. For more details, read my book on the third secret of Fatima, which is available free of charge to everyone in digital format on the bantufamily.net site. Once established on the navel of the earth, the physical center of the world, the tribes of Isolele founded a kingdom which, for reasons of secrecy and security, they no longer called Israel, Isolele, but Congodian Totela, which means the kingdom of totality, the kingdom of the whole earth. Let's recall here that king in English is derived from Nkengi, shepherd, king, root of Congo, kingdom. It was therefore in the heart of Africa that the prophecy made to Abraham in Genesis 15:13 was fulfilled. Note here that the original names of the Bible have been translated into pseudo Hebrew. Thus, Abraham is a translation of Ntsingi, Isaac of Intsaka, Jacob of Ntimba. This stunning chapter on translated names from Bantu will be the subject of a separate video. At the end of the 15th century, the Portuguese discovered the Kingdom of Congo. At the start, the relations between the two peoples were peaceful and cordial. They established diplomatic exchanges sealing a fruitful cooperation between both kingdoms. Much to the misfortune of the Congo people, the recent conquest of America has created an immense need for servile and merciless labor. This is how the Portuguese, attracted by an easy and immediate gain, initiated the triangular trade Africa, Europe, America, namely the slave trade of black people taken by force to the new American colonies. We are at the beginning of the 17th century, and the first Africans land in Jamestown, Virginia, in August 1619. Thus was fulfilled Joel's prophecy. They drew lots for my people. They gave the young boy for a prostitute. They sold the young girl for wine, and they drank. Joel chapter 3, verse 3. Let's summarize. The 400 years of slavery not having existed in Egypt, the 400 years not having existed in Mesopotamia, either during the deportation of Isolele in ancient Babylon, there remains a gaping hole in history of the tribes of Israel. Would the Most High have spoken in vain when he uttered this prophecy with such precision in the duration of this trial? Even though he says that the word that comes out of his mouth doesn't come back to him without effect, Isaiah 55:11. The only hypothesis that remains is that this prophecy, with the eyes of the whole world fixed on Palestine, was fulfilled elsewhere within the real Isolele in Congo Diantotela. The slavery of the Bantu is therefore the indelible and indisputable marker of their secret identity, that of the chosen people. No white people have indeed been captured, deported, and sold into slavery thousands of miles from their home. Once the common thread of history has been established, it links Congo not only to the USA but also to Central and South America, Brazil in particular, and the West Indies, Caribbean. So much for the geographic locations of the real diaspora of Isolele. Now let's look at the red thread of the timeline. 1619 plus 298 years equals 1917. 298 years after the start of the deportation of the children of Isolele, the Most High sends a female messenger, which happens a unique time in the Bible. Revelation 12:1, from heaven to deliver messages of the utmost importance for all humanity. It takes place in a small, insignificant village in Portugal called Fatima. The main message, known to the world as the Third Secret, has a close connection with the emancipation and the return of the diaspora of Isolele to the Promised Land. 1619 plus 302 years equal 1921. 302 years after the start of the deportation of the children of Isolele, the Most High raises a powerful prophet symbolizing Elijah and John the Baptist. Matthew chapter 17, verses 10 to 13. His name is Simon Kimbangu. His mission is that described in Malachi 3:1. Behold, I will send my messenger. He will prepare the way before me, and suddenly the Lord whom you seek will enter his temple. And the covenant messenger you desire, behold, he comes, says the Most High. 1619 plus 330 years equals 1949. 330 years after the start of the deportation, the Lord referred to in the above prophecy of Malachi enters his temple. How, will you tell me? By provoking the Pentecost of the last day, July 25, 1949, which gives access to the temple of the Lord, that is, the church of our Lord Jesus Christ in the world. Leviticus 25:8. To reach the 400 years predicted by the Most High, it suffices to add 70 years to the 330 years completed in 1949 in accordance with another prophecy. As soon as 70 years have passed for Babylon, I will remember you and fulfill my good word to you by bringing you back to this place. Jeremiah 29:10. 200. Consequently, 2019 equals 400 years since the deportation, and this is the spiritual end of slavery. 2019 equals 70 years after entering the temple of the Lord. This is the divine decree of the return of the diaspora of Isolele. 2020 equals the Great Jubilee. This year corresponds to the 15th year according to Leviticus 25:10. Hence, the COVID-19 pandemic, which constitutes the great sign given by the Most High of the prelude to the return of His people. 2021. Pastor Melo sets his feet from the first days of 2021 on the sacred soil of Angola. It does open the way of return for the diaspora. With the invasion of the capital by Trump fanatics on Wednesday, January 6th, the death knell for Babylon was sounded. Therefore, 2021 marks the beginning of the 10-year the countdown during which the diaspora will organize and effectively begin the great return to Zion, Congodian Totela. Ingeta, Pastor Melo.